Welcome to Biz Dev Live. My name is Cameron Toth, and I'm so excited to be here with you today, bringing you the one, the only, the Herald H-Dub Whaley. He has an amazing background from the Navy to the music industry to building a community in the Bahamas, not to mention owning franchise basketball leagues of the ABA, corporate involvement there. There's just, this man defies any kind of easy explanation. We're going to hear about it right after the Biz Dev theme.
Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. This is business development, not even selling it. This is intelligent. If you watch it, I promise you benefit. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T.
Harold Whaley defies a simple description. He is a businessman, international entrepreneur, musician, Navy veteran, and so much more. Whaley began his career in the entertainment industry in 1985 after joining the U.S. Navy in 1982. He was introduced to the music industry in the Philadelphia area and worked closely with Jean Carne, Patti LaBelle, Al Green, GQ, Heatwave, and Denise Williams as a background vocalist. As the program director for Urban Network's online radio station, he was instrumental in helping to launch the careers of artists like Destiny's Child, Ray J, Mary, Snoop Dogg, and many other artists. After serving 11 years in the Navy, Harold Whaley pursued his passion of music and was soon signed as a producer, artist with SoCal independent record label Deemo Records. Harold Whaley's current titles include, he's the owner, Harold Whaley and Associates, LLC, digital technology director for Rainy Songs Entertainment, founder of the ABA team, the West Michigan Lakehawks, VP of client relationships at Hip Hop Motorsports, lead project creator of the Bertram Village project down in the Bahamas. Thank you so much for being on the show with me. Welcome to the show, Mr. H-Dub, Harold Whaley. What's going on? Hold on, I got you on mute. Go ahead.
Hey, man, thanks for inviting me, man. I appreciate it.
No, we met on Clubhouse. We had an amazing conversation. You're doing such incredible things. Really just, I mean, just so much, right? You have made it impossible to put you into one little round kind of nice hole here. You've done quite a lot with your life here. Talk to us about what you're currently doing. I know you got some course offering stuff that you got coming up. Talk to us about that.
Oh man, okay, Cam. I mean, well, first, I'm Harold Whaley. And my name is at the bottom, so you guys don't know me. You can find me on Google if you want to look me up. But what I do is I grew up in Ocala, Florida, a place called Ocala, O-C-A-L-A. And Ocala was a country town. I grew up in the country raising cows, pigs, and chickens. My grandfather was a farmer, so we farmed watermelons. And the cool thing about it is that we owned a lot of land, and we basically employed most of the people around the area to work on our farms. So I didn't know much about it. I was a kid at the time and I was groomed in more music. I was really the little kid that was booked at all the churches singing solos on Sunday, but also excelled in music in the band in high school. So played trombone. I was the #1 trombone player in high school, and from my sophomore year to my senior year, had a full ride scholarship to 2 universities, and my band director talked me into not going to college. He said, I don't think you need to go to college. It's just a little bit, I think it'll be too slow for you. He said, you're the kind of guy, I wrote all the music for the band. I was a guy that was always kind of into everything, just kind of keeping things moving, and was geared to, back in the day, we had a Curtis Mathis TV. And I don't know people who know about that way back in the day, but that was kind of the Lamborghini of the televisions during that time. But we had, on that television, it had a cassette player, it had an 8-track, it had a record player, and I used to go to the record stores weekly and buy all the records I could that were hot records around, and make little cassette tapes and sell them to everybody in our area. So that got me kind of motioning in my mindset of where I wanted to be. But I always used to love this one label called Solar, Solar, Solar Records. It was Sounds of Los Angeles Records. That's what it stood for. And on that label, it was a lot of people like the Whispers, Shalimar, Lakeside, a lot of these big groups from that time frame. And I just loved their whole makeup, and I liked the logo. And they had the name of the label, the address of the label written around the side. So I memorized it. So I had a dream that that was the label that I wanted to be on at a young age. So fast forward, I decided to go in the military, talked into it by my band director, who felt that me getting into the military would take me away from the country and give me a way to see the world. And I always say that that was probably the best advice that saved my life. So Mr. Barden Cuddington was his name. And he's still alive today. I love him. Every time I go home, I try to make sure I see him and say hi. But what it led me to do is get away and see the world. So I got a chance to go out and see how things work in real life, not being behind, some walls with some pigs and some cows and some chickens. So, and that I still had that burning desire to find a way to be in the music industry and to be on that one label that I told you about as a kid that I loved so much. So, and I didn't have any direction, but I took my cues from learning in the Navy, and I excelled really fast. I was a radar operator, became a radar operator, and I was the guy that, when planes were flying above or boats coming ahead of us, I was the one to navigate our ships to them and around them, or to sortie them, to do all those things in that nature. So I did 11 years doing that. Probably would have did 20, but the burning desire for the industry was really, really heavy for me. So got out, worked in the industry by bumping into people that were doing it. So I got into the industry and worked on that side of it, and started working with, like I said, the Patti LaBelles and Jean Carne. Jean Carne was the first person I ever worked with that had any real legitimacy in the business. And that led me to being signed with a manager who eventually, in the middle of our deal, passed. He died. So it put me back out in the open again. But I came out to California, started a studio, got out of the Navy, and signed 2 deals. Did the deal, ended up with a deal with a company called Deemo Records that you mentioned earlier, which was a small label out of San Diego. And they actually took my deal that I signed with them and got a deal with Solar Records, not knowing anything that I said in the past about it was my vision and my dream. But my first record ever came out on Solar Records. So that's why I'm one of those people that if you believe in something, man, if you really got a vision in your heart, don't let anybody tell you that you can't do it. There's a way to figure it out. I mean, and I had to go through hurdles. I did. I had to learn. I had to walk indoors and not know what I was doing, be ridiculed at times. And I like to think I'm, try to be bright on certain things, but I have been ridiculed about trying to walk indoors and learn. But when I come back, I guarantee you I'm not going to be ridiculed on that subject matter again. So I take it real serious to follow those dreams and those goals that you have, man. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't do it. It's a way. It's a way. If you, don't, come up with visions that you can fly off a building or something without wings. But I'm saying anything that's reasonable, that makes sense. I'm a visionary that says you really need to focus on doing that. So that was my first start into the business, Cam, how I got into the music side of things. I laid that into the point of where it led me to go into this music conference all the time to learn. I'm a person that really spends in myself. I spend in meaning that if you really want to move forward in your life and anything you're doing, really invest in yourself. I invested in going to seminars and going to conferences, going to all these music places where I would meet these incredible people, and they would take me in because they liked what I was doing, and I would listen to what they were saying. I would go sit in the audience in panels like we do in Clubhouse and learn. And eventually I started leading those panels. Eventually I started working with the company Urban Network after I kind of got tired of the music industry for a little while. I'd won the San Diego Music Award in 1999. And that wasn't even on my plans. And after I'd done what I wanted to do with Solar, I didn't have a vision or a dream past that. in the music industry. So what I started doing is educating. I started teaching at conferences. I started spending time. And at these conferences, we'd see artists that would come through the door, like I mentioned earlier, Destiny Child. Destiny Child was Beyonce and all the girls when they first started out at 16, 17 years old. They would come to these conferences that I would be now working at, and walking through the door, and we brush them off and clean them up and give them the wow factor. So, I mean, and that's not to name drop, but when you look up the company I work with, Urban Network, some Music Summit, Entertainment Summit, and a magazine, Urban Network magazine, it became the place. It's the urban, think of it as the urban South by Southwest. Anyone that understands what South by Southwest is, Urban Network was that to the industry. It actually just kind of defunct maybe 4 years ago. So it's not that far removed from where we were, but the people that came through there were everybody from Ludacris to Mary to Boys to Men to, I mean, anyone that's been there. I've met, you know, Clive Davis and Berry Gordy and all the real people that sit on panels and give you the game and tell you, like we hear in Clubhouse, the things that you need to hear and help you advance your career. So I listened, I learned, I ended up becoming one of the people that worked with the company. So I had an opportunity to help advance other people's careers. I became the program director for their online radio stations. And get this, it's crazy fact. My first morning jock on Urban Network Radio was John Amos, who is, if you remember Good Times, he was the father in Good Times. He also was Mr. McDowell in Coming to America, and he's also in the new Coming to America too. So he was my first morning jock. And we interviewed everybody. I had to produce all of his shows. So that was an incredible experience for me in the beginning. I did something that was different because I became the program director of Urban Network's online radio stations. There were no Urban ever online radio stations in history at that time. So I ended up partnering with the company that was just starting radio in a mass amount called Live 365. And this is way early in the day. They actually went out of business and came back again now. But in the early days when they first started, they were the ones that facilitated all of our radio station packages. So, you know, I want to give a big shout out to them because that's where I cut my teeth in internet radio. I have a radio station now called Suede Soul. I go by SWADE. So it's Wade in the water with an S in the front. So Suede Soul .live is that. And I have an online radio station. I have a podcast. So you guys can hear me interview some of the people. I have friends that I try to make sure that their knowledge stays alive. People like Judge Joe Brown and all these guys who have so much to contribute to life, but because, you know, there's not been people that kind of shake it out of them to get the things that I believe that are helpful to the youth today and just the world in general. So after that positioning, I got involved in 2004 in a platform called Second Life, SECONDLIFE, Second Life, which is a virtual world. That virtual world, I got involved because a friend of mine called me, actually the owner of the first label I signed to. He was at a real estate convention, bettering himself, if you hear me. And he was at a real estate convention. He was like, hey, I'm here at this convention. There's a lady here that says she made $1 million, $1.5 million actually, selling virtual real estate. What is that? And I'm like, I have no idea. He said, well, find out. And I did. I got involved in this platform, and think of the Sims. If you think of the Sims, SIMS, the Sims game, think of it come to life. And that's what this platform was. I got involved in 2004, and I started building virtual property. I started buying land. I started building virtual cities. I started becoming a authority in there for people who were really trying to find ways to stretch their marketing, to advance their promotion. So I got involved in that facet. I came in from a real world perspective into a virtual world, but playing like I was in a real world. So I did everything from built convention centers to hospitals, to schools, to universities. I've spoken on many virtual panels I'd be there on the panel as my virtual character, and in the audience at a university, you see characters dressed up like Santa Claus and Voltar and, you know, The Simpsons. But they'd be real students in the classroom that are listening to what we're saying on the panel. So it was an incredible opportunity in the beginning. And I did the first ever virtual world movie theater with Stars Home Entertainment. We did a movie called The Jimmy and Judy Movie. And we did that in 2008. 2008. You guys can look that up. But it then opened the doors for me to be speaking at film festivals, teaching people how they really didn't need AMC or Netflix or any of those things that were coming, because you could separate yourself. And as you see now, most people are getting to that mode where they're becoming their own content creators, but setting it up where you have your own movie theater. And I don't care what movie you're putting in, you can run your theater like a real theater, have characters come in, virtual popcorn, the whole nine. You actually can come in as a virtual character yourself and talk to the audience without, you know, being mobbed. So those are little unique things that I learned and I started along the way. And what that eventually led to me doing is about 3.5 years ago, I got a call from a company out of Oregon, and they were in the middle of planning to build a brand new township on the island of Eleuthera, Bahamas. And they reached out to me because they had heard my background and the things that I'd done. And they asked me would I come on to help them as a project coordinator. Now, understand, I would not have had any experience in any of this if I hadn't been building virtual cities in the virtual world. So it led me to be able to find the right people I needed to put together the process that now we're moving dirt. We just started breaking ground in the island, and watching this come together has been one of the most rewarding things I've had happen. So that's a little bit of my journey, Cameron, just to kind of give you a fast forward version of it.
So much to touch on for folks, because I think, you know, I want to get into Bertram Village. I think that's a big discussion around building the community in the Bahamas. And I know we got people watching. So if you have questions about how Harold's done this, love your questions in the comments. One of the things that sort of stuck out to me, because I was just having the conversation, speaking about Clubhouse in the Clubhouse room on events and marketing yesterday, regarding blockchain, even just cards, so trading cards, which I didn't know like NBA Hot Shots was a theme, but we started getting into it where, you know, you can actually trade these like digital cards and their
NFTs.
Yeah, what is it?
NFTs, non-fungible tokens.
There you go. NFTs. Thank you very much. Because I was confusing with a P. So NFTs, and I couldn't wrap my head around it. And I think there's a similar kind of thing for folks that haven't, especially if you haven't participated in some of these virtual environments. I was just in a virtual event kind of thing, and I don't know how the real estate thing works. I don't know how that works. Is there a way that you can explain it to people where they will sort of get it, even if they haven't participated in it?
Okay, when we say participate, we talking cryptocurrency or the basics of it, just for someone layman that doesn't know anything?
I think we got a couple of different things, right? Cryptocurrency, which, you know, I've just started, you know, sort of throwing some small dollars into, literally like I put $100 into Dogecoin the other day, and it's already, you know, ticking up in value. You know,
thanks to Elon Musk.
Right.
And Bitcoin.
And Bitcoin, which I'm invested in both of those. So I follow Elon, right? But the virtual world kind of thing, you talked about somebody selling virtual real estate, which I think, you know, when we talk about Bitcoin and Doge and the NFTs, it's all virtual real estate, right? This idea that there's a limit on something, that there's an identifiable, and it's somehow in some way rare, right? Because you talk to me about an image or a video online, I'm like, how is that limited? I can reproduce it and I can watch it a million times. Like, why would I buy that if it's available online?
Good. Let me give you a good example. I've got some guys that and I didn't mention through that whole journey, I left out the fact of my ABA journey. Okay, the American Basketball Association.
Yeah, we skipped completely over that. Yeah,
right. I served as American Basketball Association vice president for 12 years. But the ABA, and I'm not a huge basketball fan at all, guys, just so you know, that as crazy as it is. But I got involved in the basketball side because of the entertainment side. I looked at it like, wow, if I own a team and I've got a venue to play at on Saturday and Sunday, I can own pregame, postgame, Star Spangled Banner, and halftime. Plus, I got some basketball going on. So it gave me a way to, one, Make sure that the guys have an opportunity not be out there stealing your car and my car because they got a job. Make sure that I'm also providing education for them because I got the players, making sure that they go out and speak to the kids in the schools. I keep that program going. I make sure the young kids get a chance to come in for free, and some, elementary kids, blah, blah, blah. So I kept a full gamut going around this. My team right now, the Lake Hawks, we've had that for 10 years. That's teams in Muskegon, Michigan, and they are a fixture now in the community, man. To be around 10 years and finally getting the convention center guide and to be on the marquee, I can't tell you how it's been a journey, but it's been a journey that I've learned along the way. So it wasn't somebody that came to me and said, this is how you do it. This is how you do it. I've had to take my knocks. I've had to fight people for certain things. I've had to be hit in the head. I've had face racism. I faced everything you possibly could think to go through this journey, but the journey has been rewarding and worth it to the fact that I can educate people on how to kind of move faster than I did, or even have a vision that they may be stalled in. So when we talk about going back to the portion of the virtual side, I took the ABA and brought them in the virtual world too. Now, so we take that concept that I brought the ABA in the virtual world. I built the virtual arena. Okay, I built in the virtual arena. Then I built virtual uniforms. And then I set them up in the store that the people that are coming to watch this game, because the way I set it up is I set it up to build the arena, not for them to watch virtual players play, but I set a Jumbotron in that on all sides of the Jumbotron, when I'm having a real game in real life, I'm broadcasting that in the virtual world from my team. So the people are actually sitting there watching a real game, but they can participate and bounce the ball in the virtual world on the court. They can buy a jersey. They can buy a ball. They can buy all of those particular things. Every one of those things are digital content that is, 1, trackable, 2, identifiable, and 3, intellectual property. I would be one of what was crazy back in the day. I would go to all the virtual world conferences. I would usually be one of the only people of color there. And being there, what I would find it was so crazy is that you have law. I mean, you have virtual law, meaning that if you go in the virtual world and you steal my virtual couch, I'm taking you to real jail. It is that kind of a scenario. And there's been people in there, you can look these kind of things up. There was a woman in there, I remember once, that husband found out, because in the virtual world, you can have a virtual wife. Okay, that says she's your virtual wife, and so people will not live.
I'm gonna step in here because I think like I'm having trouble wrapping my head around it. So let's just go back to like the couch example, right?
Okay. So
I built something inside the virtual environment. So I think about this like Barbie's dollhouse, right? So I built something in there. Let's say I build it out of wood. Somebody comes over. They snatch it out, right? What stops me in a digital world from just clicking my fingers and the couch reappearing? Why is there
when I say the couch is yours anyway, so it doesn't go anywhere. But if somebody took that couch and tried to pass it off as their own and resell it from someplace,
right? So now you're talking about design, right? So now you're talking about we get
exactly. I said the intellectual property comes with your design. Whatever you're creating, I don't care if it's a box, you just make a square. If you put something on it that signifies that it's identifiable with you, that separates it. Now you have an intellectual property. Now where that leads into is what we were talking about earlier with NFTs, non-fungible tokens, because now they're making this conversation that we're having is creating a non-fungible token that can be sellable the moment that we finish a conversation. So everything someone does now has value digitally if you are in the motion of making sure that it's trackable, it's identifiable, and scalable. So
I think I understand from that perspective of if we have it like, so you're saying I make a card, I make something, and I own the broadcasting rights, let's say like the NBA, right? I own that broadcast. So anybody using that broadcast in any way that I don't approve of is basically, the lawsuit, if you're making money off of it, I can take that money.
Well, even if they are using it, let's just say that because it creates this digital currency that right now is very new. to the environment. So most people don't see it as that yet. I mean, just how it was. Think back in the day when MP3s came out and Napster jumped on the scene and music started getting proliferated all over the place and artists were in an uproar. I remember like it was yesterday. So just think from that standpoint on the money side, but know that the bankers are the ones that are in an uproar now because they cannot control where that money goes. What you got to know about the blockchain? Okay, the blockchain is the newest creation that we've had on this magnitude of a scale since the internet. Okay, and it's really just a fancy, simple, advanced, fancy, whatever, because it could be simple, it could be advanced spreadsheet. It's just it just keeps people knowing to keep something organized. Meaning that if Cameron and I did a deal with each other and said, hey, Cameron, I'm going to sell you this bottle of water. Okay. And Cameron said, okay, I'll buy it for, 2 Cameron tokens. And I say, okay, I'll give me 2 Cameron tokens. And the 2 Cameron tokens now are the value of whatever the bottle of water is. That's how it starts. That's how Bitcoin started. Bitcoin started because somebody bought a pizza. When they bought the pizza, it gave it value. Then that $8 and 10,000 Bitcoins. 10,000 Bitcoins for one pizza, which equaled 10,000 Bitcoins at that time equaled $8.96.
Which is a very, very expensive pizza slice.
Very expensive. Listen, man. I went on a trip and spent 50 Bitcoin just to go on a trip that, was just for a month, and Bitcoin was like $900 at that time. I thought I was balling out of control. Do you understand how mad I am right now that all of that?
I mean, if you didn't, it all is a part of the system, right? If you don't,
yeah, of course. But I needed to know that I could do it. Okay, right, and the cool thing about it,
if you don't spend the coin, it doesn't have value. If somebody
absolutely,
it doesn't have value, right? So
and even take it a step further than that, Cam, because again, this was still new age. I mean, I spent that about 4 or 5 years ago. I think about the way I did it. Because we weren't advanced that time frame. I had to do it to where I mapped out my trip where I was going to cities that had Bitcoin ATM machines in those cities to be able to cash out. And the thing about it, that's a whole nother investment opportunity, guys. Y'all listen to me carefully, please. If you want to make some money, you want to be real, buy a Bitcoin ATM machine. They're about $1,500. Get the programming, learn how to do them. Because I had to go to animal hospitals in the back room because nobody had them. That was that kind of place that had it. Another place was like a shopping gala behind some corner because nobody was doing that. Now it's starting obviously to be a little more advanced, but really this is a day and age where the average person can own a ATM machine. You guys better hear me, because if you don't, you're gonna lose out.
That's amazing. Yeah, no, that's some brain racking stuff. So, because I want to get this back to your story, because I know we probably lost a little bit of the audience that was with us, because I know this is like really, like you say, it can be fairly simple if you get your head around it, but it's very complicated if you're just not there, right? I was talking to somebody this morning, and for somebody that's in the world and understands accounting and finances, the rule of 72 makes a lot of sense. For me, I know a penny earned, right? A penny saved is a penny earned, right? I think that if I put money in a savings account, it's actually saving money versus me spending money or having money in my checking account that's not working for me. It's not investment, right? So that's what makes sense to me, not the rule of 72. You start telling me, putting this money away for this amount of time and this many years versus them, like I'm totally lost. So talk to us a little bit about, because you went from being in the Navy, you went into music, you have had amazing success there. We didn't even talk about like the Suge Knight stories and the craziness that went on there in your life. Talk to us about, this progression. The virtual worlds have led to you building this community in the Bahamas. Talk to us a little bit about why you're passionate about doing that and how you got involved in the project management and what is going on in terms of creating not only that community, but what you've done, with the ABA in terms of providing community uplifting pieces that, are changing the societies that you're operating in.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Well, we can start with the Bahamas. Well, the Bahamas piece again came to me strictly on a humanitarian mindset. When they called me, they were like, listen, we have a problem. We have had 4 people that have been involved in trying to help us with this, and they've all failed. And they told us to call you, and you could help us. And I'm like, okay, what are we doing? They said, we need to build a city, and this is the deal. And I'm like, okay, build a city. I love that. And Bahamas, even better. So they broke down what guidelines they had, which were very strict, because this particular city that we're building is a city for the people, a communist city right now, to help with that 77% unemployment rate, to help with sustainability, to help train and do all of those situations. Because one of the key pieces that happens over there, people come over there for great vacation times and then they leave, and you know, they spend their money there to do that, but that money doesn't come back to the people. I mean, in the Bahamas, and 2 years ago, their income was 900 million as far as exports, and 10 billion with imports. So they're spending a lot of money to bring stuff in, but nothing going out to make money. So building sustainable elements in place right now is kind of important to what we're doing on the island itself. I've got a car company I'm working with called MIMS Motors. You guys can look those guys up, MIMS Motors USA. And it actually is a Elon Musk type kind of project. It's an electric car company that gets 1,000 miles to the charge. We're going to be building, it recharges via Wi-Fi, and the entire car is made out of hemp. So there's several components that I'm involved in there. One, we're going to be building charging stations on the island. We're also working to put I'm just going
to, because when you say that like that, it sounds crazy for folks, but you know, for a lot of these things, like Bitcoin sounded crazy, I imagine, to a lot of people. You see what's going on now, right? So, and just break down before you keep going, because I like hearing about the individual companies involved and everything. But what's currently in the spot, like where you're building the community? What's currently there, and how are you bringing these companies in to change the landscape here?
Good story. Good story. Where we're at is the last of the Mohicans. Nothing's there but land. We've got 6,000 acres we're building on. The land is pink sand beaches, pink sand. So when you see it, it's right past the glass window bridge. Now the island that we're on is 110 miles long. Okay, we're at the northern portion of the island. So if you guys look up Eleuthera, Bahamas, you'll understand where that is. And if you follow it from the beginning, 110 miles from the bottom, the very bottom, Disney is in the process of building a 751-acre cruise port resort with attractions in the whole 9. Okay, they're doing that right now. They've got an agreement going on. Still some battling going on because of some environmental issues that we're worried about, but that's ongoing. Okay, you follow them up that street. There's only one road that goes from the top to the bottom. You follow that up about 40 miles, you run into Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods has just finished a 1,700-acre resort called Jack's Bay. Jack's Bay has about 594, I think, 94 plots, houses. I mean, apartments, you know, condos for the ultra rich. You must have a boat and a plane in order to even qualify. So just in essence, the airport is located in our area. Could you hang? I'm sorry, my son. Okay, the airport is located in our area of the northern portion. Okay, and so, which is great, because that means that everybody from Tiger Woods to Disney has to come directly through our property. Okay, the land was given to this family over 250 years ago by the Queen of England for their help in their fight against the pirates of the Caribbean.
This is wild, yeah.
They took out Blackbeard. Okay, so crazy whole story behind it. There's still swimming pigs over on the island. The same the coves that Blackbeard and his crew used to hang out in, they're still there. People still go to visit those particular places. But it's an incredible piece of history surrounding this. So it took someone 250 years to figure out how to commandeer this to bring it to life. And this is where the principles of the property that I'm working with, this is what they figured out and brought me into play to do so.
Are there commercial flights going to the airport at all, or no?
There are. There's flights going from Nassau. So they fly. Well, actually, there's a flight that flies from Miami directly to Eleuthera also.
Okay.
So I'm working with a lady who is
and for everybody that's watching, Eleuthera is right off of the coast of Florida, right above Cuba, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's one of the islands, one of the 700 archipelagos in the Bahamas. So it's actually where Lenny Kravitz lives too.
Oh, wow.
Lenny Kravitz lives on the island. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. So talk to us about how that, because you talked about the MIMS car. So how are these
playing in the how do they come into play?
Yeah.
Okay, well, where they're coming into play is their jobs. Okay, job creation is my first and foremost piece. And I'm out the box, as you see, talking about things from virtual worlds on down. So I didn't come into this with a mindset of just building a little island hut and selling conch shells on the beach. Okay, so my whole mindset was really bringing some sustainability to this mindset. One is the MIMS motors. Again, I just broke down all the components that is involved in that car that is unique. We're going to build charging stations on the island. We're going to work to bring that the actual car. We want to make sure that they're using them in Disney. They're using them at Tiger Woods location. All of those things, like you see the bicycles and the scooters along the highway. We're looking at doing that for these particular kind of cars along that 110-mile corridor. So
it's funny, Robert Person mentioned sounds like Wakanda, and it's funny because when we were having the conversation the other day, I mean, I think we mentioned something like Wakanda in the sense that you create a community that is forward-looking, obviously sustainable, which was a word that comes up over and over again. So when you talk about electric vehicles made out of hemp, right, it's all sustainability based, but it's also about making sure that the companies that are coming in are actually giving to the land and the community
absolutely
opportunity there versus
taking from it
and bringing it out. Yeah,
right. So if you know right now, the largest hotel there now in Nassau is a new hotel called Bahamas. Bahamas is owned by the Chinese. They moved over and started setting up shop in the Bahamas right now, which has always been like a little bit timid for the U.S. because they're so close, and we know our relationships with them has always had a volatile element in and out. So that's something that they're watching. But you got to remember, the Bahamas is not a U.S. territory. Most people get that confused. It's British Commonwealth. So if you understand that, now they work well with the U.S., but it's a British Commonwealth. So that's why they're right on the other side of the highway. All those things still matter in that move. And the rules that's why there's no president. You have a prime minister. You have part of parliament, upper and lower parliament, that we deal with on a regular to move this along. And again, as crazy as it is, you'd be amazed, because the principals I'm working with, how many people in the government are like second cousins and first cousins. I mean, it's just so close knit with the people, and you'd be amazed with a person that's running the sheriff department, and also at night he's the security at the airport. It's that kind of crazy situation. So I've learned a lot with being able to figure
small town-ish
mindset. So again, we're not trying to change that particular element. What we're trying to do though is bring a different climate, a different economy-based system in place. Because I'm going to use Li-Fi, as L-I-F-I. If you guys haven't heard of that, that's the next level of Wi-Fi. Okay, that comes through your electrical system.
From a TED Talk, which is, you got your Wi-Fi that's powered by basically lights, overhead lights, right?
Absolutely, correct. And then I'm working with a company out of Vegas called Gigacrete, Gigacrete. Gigacrete creates homes that withstand up to 350 mile per hour winds. So we know we're dealing with what we're dealing with in the Bahamas on the hurricane side. So we want to make sure that we're prepared there and not just setting up shop and then having to go back and do it all over again. So that's very important.
I love that, because that's the immediate thing you think of, when you think of the islands down the Bahamas and Florida, that you're going to be dealing with that. So, forward thinking, making sure that you're building structures that can withstand, making sure that the community is set up for the eventualities of it. I love it. So what is, because I want to kind of wrap up this conversation here. What are things that you're looking for, or what are ways that people can help you with this project?
Well, we're building a university, so that's going to definitely take a lot of brilliant minds, because I want to I'm planning on one of the plans is to put a full sail type university in the university, so we can have more people of color filmmakers that are down there, just opening the door for people that don't have opportunities in that mode. There's a Navy base down there right now that we're in talks with them about having a restructure of that old Navy base. It's an old Navy, U.S. Navy base. It's abandoned, but I'm talking to some people right now that are based in the SpaceX program about putting a data center there. We can bring about 6,000 to 7,000 jobs in a situation like that. So
what's really, the time frame that like these things are moving?
This is an 8-year project right now. Again, like I just told you, we just started moving dirt. So, and people, we now have boots on the ground because it's been a remote element for the last 3 years. And then you take what we went through with COVID this last year, it slowed everything down. So again, it's an 8-year project, $18 billion play. So it's it's very ambitious where we're going with.
That's amazing. Talk to us, because I know you had mentioned to me before we jumped on that you're going to be offering some courses. What kind of courses are you offering?
Well, I'm still really big on helping entertainers to really learn this game from scratch. So on my site, I offer different courses and different promotion packages to help musicians to better their careers, and not just musicians, but actors and actresses, filmmakers, the whole nine. So, and I have a consulting element involved in it. So if anybody wants to reach out to me, I'm findable, HaroldWhaley.com. And you can reach me on that. And Suede Soul, I mentioned that earlier about my podcast, yep. SuedeSoul.live.
Yeah, I put your LinkedIn down below so people can reach out to you on LinkedIn.
Appreciate you, sir.
Look off to the side so people can connect with you there. I know we talked about, in the sustainability, the opportunity down in the Bahamas. I know you were mentioning in the beginning, and so we can close this kind of out here a bit. Anyone can do what they put their heart to. I know you mentioned that along with the story. Talk to us about this giving piece.
I believe that, and sometimes it's been, to a fault to me, I thought, okay, I give a lot. But when you give, I realized that sometimes it may, and I used to have a problem with it because I seem like I always give and it seemed like I have less after I've given so much more to so many people. And I realized that I was giving kind of begrudgingly and I was getting back begrudgingly. So I learned that I couldn't do it that way. I had to really freely open my heart and say, you know what, here, this is for you. Okay. And I want you to do with it what you can. If you don't, I did give it to you. So once I got to that state, it started just opening so many different doors that just started to open for me to where I could walk in without having to bump my head against the door seal. So I just want to, bring that point about, no matter what it is, it may be something small, but whether it's just knowledge or whether you help someone, just you give, it'll come back to you. You may not see it right then, but I promise you, it'll come back.
All right, so I think we hit some important notes today. Anyone can do what they put their heart out, do. Make sure you stick with it. The consistency is a big deal, but go after it. Give, you'll get a lot more back if you're giving, right? One note that we didn't have written down in the takeaways, but go get yourself a Bitcoin cash machine, make that investment.
Yes, sir.
You're literally making some money there, right? And then sustainability, right? We talked about sustainability and whether it's building businesses within your communities that help to prop up and support the community in sustainable ways, or building something down in the Bahamas. What are you doing to make the world a better place? Definitely follow up with Mr. Harold Whaley. He's got such great ideas. He's doing real things to actually improve our world. So definitely follow up with them, whether it's just sending him some well-deserved props and kudos, or actually participating in this community building of Bertram Village down in the Bahamas. Glow Favreau says, what goes around comes around. Wow, giving with an open heart is such an important concept. All right.
Thank you, Amy.
Glow says, I live by remain teachable. I'm loving this. So we had Robert Person checking in, a few people. Thank you so much for watching today. Mr. Harold Whaley, thank you for—
Can I say one more thing?
Please.
I have I just released a new record again, because I this past year was crazy. And while having all this time in COVID, For 2020, I released my first record since 1995. So it's under the name Sway Soul, and another one just came out on the 5th. It's called Another Number. So you can find all this on my website, guys. I appreciate it. And Cameron, thank you so much for inviting me to the show. I really appreciate it.
No, it's great. And I think I was on the website, and I think the soundtrack was going off, and I was enjoying it. I can't tell you the name of the song, but I was enjoying the music. So definitely go and check all of it out. Definitely go to his LinkedIn. You can find the websites, I think, in the contact information below. Definitely reach out to him in his DMs. Definitely connect. Harold, thank you so much for being on the show. I'll let you say goodbye to everybody.
Thank you guys, everybody. I appreciate everything, and I really want to big up to Big Biz Dev Live. I want to appreciate you guys for definitely hooking me up, man, and bringing me on the show.
Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. This is business development, not even selling it. This is intelligent. If you watch it, I promise you benefit. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T.